Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Wake County Virtual Candidate Forum for the Wake County Board of Education. My name is Kathy Thompson, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Wake County. The League of Women Voters of Wake County is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering voters and defending democracy. We encouraged informed and active participation in government, help citizens increase their understanding of major public policy issues, and work to influence public policy through education and advocacy. As a nonpartisan organization, the League of Women Voters does not endorse or oppose candidates and is proud to continue our long history of hosting candidate forums. The views, opinions, and content expressed in this presentation do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the League of Women Voters. All candidates who filed to run for the Wake County Board of Education were invited to participate in our candidate forums. Outreach included emails, phone calls, as well as certified letters inviting candidates to respond and provide citizens an opportunity to learn about their views. Thank you to the candidates who are with us today. The Wake County Board of Education is a local governing body of the Wake Public School System. It is the largest school district in North Carolina and the 14th largest in the United States. It serves a very diverse student body and has improved its graduation rate so that almost 91% graduate from high school. Its 9 members are currently elected from 9 separate county districts. Each member represents that district within the entire board and is elected by residents of that district. This race is nonpartisan, meaning that candidates are not running as representatives of a political party, and their party affiliation is not listed on the ballot. The school board sets policy for the school system implemented by the superintendent and administrative staff. The board also adopts an annual budget proposal that includes its request for local funding from the Wake County Board of Commissioners, as well as its plan for using their allocated state and federal funds. The school board does not have taxing authority. Today, we welcome candidates for District 8, Lindsay Mahaffey and Elizabeth McDuffie. District 8 is in the southwest corner of Wake County. All candidates live in District 8. Welcome, Lindsay and Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us today. We will ask every candidate for the Wake County Board of Education the same questions. The questions will cover a range of issues relevant to the scope of the board. You will have 1 minute each for your opening statement and closing statement, and 1 minute to answer each question. The last person to speak to a question will be the first person to speak to the next question. Before we begin, I'd like to verify with the candidates that they have not received the questions in advance. Can you verbally confirm?
I have not seen the questions.
Neither have I. Thank you.
Thank you. You now will have 1 minute for an opening statement. Lindsay, please go ahead.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. I appreciate your dedication to uplifting races that are at the bottom of the ballot like this one. My name is Lindsay Mahaffey. I am running for re-election to the Wake County Board of Education in District 8. I have served in this seat since 2016 and have leadership experience, having been the chair of this board for 2 years. I am the mom of 3 students in Wake County Public Schools. I have classroom experience with a master's of teaching, and I thoroughly enjoy the work that we've been doing on this board, including restoring master's pay, raising salaries to provide better recruitment and retention efforts, expanding pre-K services, and I'm proud to be endorsed by the Wake NCAE, which is the longest serving teacher support organization in North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute for an opening statement.
Yes, hello to everyone. Thank you as well for having us and letting us take some time to talk a little bit about our campaigns for school board. My name is Elizabeth McDuffie. I have nearly 20 years of professional teaching experience. I have taught for Wake County for 10 years. In that time, I've taught elementary, middle, and high school as an English as a second language teacher. I have also done some work as an intervention teacher. I have a master's degree of teaching English to speakers of other languages and have really loved working and serving in the schools. However, I felt in June it was time to move on. Now I'm seeking a leadership position because I feel that my experience has come to the place where I can do a lot of good from leadership as opposed to just working away in the classroom.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We now will move on to the question part of the forum. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. School safety and security is a complex topic. There has been a lot of discussion about the role of law enforcement in schools. Do you think law enforcement plays a role in school safety? And what policies or procedures do you think schools should have around school security? Lindsay, you have 1 minute to answer the first question.
Thank you. School safety is something that is always top of mind as a parent and as a school board member. We have SROs in many of our schools. We have a very strong memorandum of understanding so that administrators know their role and our SROs know their role. We have a good relationship with our law enforcement partners, including our sheriffs, as well as the other municipalities in Wake County. And that is certainly a strong layer, along with training for different procedures so that we are ready for things. I'd love to see more social workers in our schools to help with conflict resolution for students. And in 2019, we had a national school safety audit, and we are implementing the results of that audit and making sure that we have things like safe storage resolutions and moving forward having safety layers. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to answer the first question.
Yes, thank you. I do believe that law enforcement does play a role in the safety of schools. I am glad that there are SROs in many of the schools. I would like to see SROs in all of the schools. The SROs I've worked with have been fantastic in building relationships with the youth. It is a different form of law enforcement in that those are positive relationships that are built with the students. But even before that, I believe that we need to get back to the student code of conduct. Over 60% of the teachers feel that their schools, that there's disorder in the common areas. This is according to this teacher working conditions survey. So I think we need to also hold students accountable because that's important. And also we have a way to check parents when they come into the schools, but we are not always prepared for students in the schools who may be dangerous.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll now move on to the second question. Wake County continues to face a staffing shortage, both with teachers and hourly employees. What strategies do you think would help recruit and retain teachers and other critical staff? Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question.
Yes, I am one of those teachers that chose to leave, unfortunately. I didn't think that my career of 20 years would come to an end as I was hoping to retire from this profession, but what I have found as an educator is that it feels that those in leadership are not always listening to what the teachers need. Yes, salary is a big issue for a lot of people, and I am thankful that this year the board was able to get the salaries up a bit. That was wonderful in restoring the master's pay. However, many teachers come for the outcomes, not for the income. And it can be very frustrating and disheartening when you're teaching and there's, you are being cursed at frequently, or students or disrespecting you. Those things are really hard for teachers. So I think that there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, but first and foremost, by listening to the teachers and asking them in a clear and frank way and allowing them to speak, why are you leaving?
Thank you, Elizabeth. Lindsay, you now have 1 minute to answer the second question.
Thank you. As I stated before, we were able to raise pay and restore master's pay for recruitment and retention efforts. We have a new strategic plan that not only focuses on literacy, knowledge, and skills, but has a whole section for behavioral health and student disposition and well-being in order to make sure that our students are coming to school prepared and feeling well as they are in the classroom so that they can be their best selves and learn better. I'm excited that our community eligibility program has made it so that over 42 of our schools have free lunch for meals because we know that that improves academic outcomes. We also have a future teachers program to help recruit our own students. So if you are a junior or senior in high school, you can graduate from Wake County with a contract in hand to come back and teach in Wake County Public Schools to help recruit and retain more teachers.
Thank you, Lindsay. We will now move on to the third question. Public education faces scrutiny around its value in our community. How do you view your mission to provide an excellent education for every child in Wake County? Lindsay, you now have 1 minute to answer the third question.
That is our job. Our job is to make sure that we are providing the first choice and best choice in education for students and making sure that we have strong academics, that we have strong social and emotional learning skills, that we're able to be operationally efficient, all play into making our public schools the first choice and the best choice. We know that the state has been underfunding public schools in order to provide for private school vouchers or charter schools. Our job is to make sure and working with our county commissions to provide the best schools for our students in Wake County. And so by increasing the number of pre-K classrooms for students to come through in order to make sure that we have more buses and working towards getting more bus drivers so that kids can come to school, those are all progress that we are making in order to make sure that we retain our students.
Thank you, Lindsay. Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to answer the third question.
Yes, academics are the core of our business as education, and we need to get our academics up. A lot of parents are choosing private, charter, and home schools because the academics are not at the same level, but they should be, they ought to be. I believe that we need to go back to a lot more paper and pencil activities. We sent kids home during COVID with laptops. We did the very best we could. However, in the classrooms now, you will see students there with their laptops and the teachers trying to teach them. It's very hard to manage, and the students are not getting all of what they can from the computers. Whereas if we had textbooks, I believe that we would be doing a lot better. There are math programs and so far out there that are fantastic. I think we need to look at adopting different materials here in Wake County to help get those academics up. We can and we should, and the students all deserve an excellent education.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We will now move on to the fourth question. We have seen an increase in restrictions placed on reading materials available in school and public libraries. What do you think the school board's role should be in making materials available in school libraries? Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question.
I believe that if a book cannot be read aloud in a school board meeting, that it should not be in a public school library. Some people say, well, that's banning books. It is not banning books. Any parent can buy the books themselves. However, I do think that we need to make sure that the books available in school libraries are academic or reading in nature and not going to expose children to things that they don't need to see prematurely. So I take that very seriously. I know I certainly don't want my children, my personal children, exposed to sexual materials at school. And I think that it's important to talk about.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Lindsay, you now have 1 minute to answer the fourth question.
Thank you. We have a policy, a very robust policy on how to select materials for our libraries. That involves the media coordinator working with parents and teachers in order to make sure the selections are appropriate for the age groups that the school is servicing. We also have a policy for review of those books if and when there is a complaint for a book that a parent finds objectionable. And so those policies are really our guardrails to make sure that we're providing books that are not just appropriate for students, but also provide mirrors and windows into a student's life. We want children to be able to see themselves reflected in the material that they read, but we also want to be able to open windows and help them see into the lives of other people, because children are naturally empathetic creatures, and books are a wonderful way of exploring the world beyond where we live.
Thank you, Lindsay. We will now move on to the fifth question. School construction is paid for with local property taxes. We have some schools that are under-enrolled and some that are overcrowded. What are your suggestions on how to best balance the school population and utilize our existing capital structure? Lindsay, you have 1 minute to answer the fifth question.
Thank you. This is something that this district has experienced many times because it is a high growth area. And in fact, we are in the middle of a reassignment process. Last night, I was just in an information session for one of our elementary schools. The reality is change is hard, and change when it is unexpected and it involves your children is even harder as a parent. So we try not to move students very often. Our staff has a policy that we will not look at a reassignment for more than 3 years, for 3 years until things happen. Again, potentially, but we try to hold off. We also want to make sure that we are addressing the needs of our families and making sure that there are appropriate academic programs for new schools that students go into, as well as making sure that if there is an under-enrolled school, that we are providing additional help so that those students can have a similar academic program.
Thank you, Lindsay. Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to answer the fifth question.
Yes, I believe that the school ought to be at the heart of each community. I think sometimes when we feel that we know it's best by busing students halfway across the county, it can be very challenging for those families. And of course, we do have some schools which are not at capacity and some that are bursting at the seams. This is a problem. But I also think that when people move to this county, they should be able to buy a home knowing which school their children will be going to then change that from time to time or every 3 years, I think is a bit too much. And I think it makes people very upset. When we have schools at the heart of each community, parent involvement increases, and there's a collective buy-in from everyone who lives there that these are the schools that they uphold and are a part of. And I think that that's a really important part of school culture.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We will now move on to the closing statements. Thank you to the candidates for coming today to participate in our virtual candidate forum. We recognize that running and serving elected office is a considerable commitment of time, energy, and often sacrificed opportunities. The League, along with the residents of Wake County, is grateful that we have so many capable fellow citizens who are willing to step forward to serve the important duties as a member of the Wake County Board of Education. You now will each have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Lindsay, you have 1 minute to give your closing statement.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. Again, my name is Lindsay Mahaffey, and I have been proud to serve this community on the Board of Education since 2016. We have done incredible work in order to make sure that we have academic progress. We have graduated our highest graduation rate at 91.3%. That's over 12,000 students that received their diploma this past year. And we are on the way to keep increasing that number with our strategic plan and our superintendent at the helm. And I'm just very proud of the work that we have done, and I'm very grateful. Again, I hope to have your vote in November, and I thank you all for your time. And that's it. I just hope to continue and see more of this work get done. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Elizabeth, you now have 1 minute to give your closing statement.
In closing, many people feel a deep love for their school that their children attend, and they ought to. That is very important. In fact, I have felt a deep connection to every school and every student that I have taught in this county. However, I have found from speaking to parents, teachers, administrators, and various community stakeholders that as an institution, we need improvements. People are voting with their feet when they move on to charter and private schools. I think we need to improve the public schools so that we can retain more of those people. It is the same for the teachers. They are leaving because they are not happy. And I think it is time that the leadership changes. I think it's time that we have a teacher on the school board. There's no Wake County teacher that is actually serving on the board, and I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. As we end our forum, we encourage you to visit our website, vote411.org, to learn more about the candidates on your ballot and to find out the latest information on polling place hours and locations. Please make your voting plan for the upcoming election and encourage your friends and family to vote as well. Thank you again for joining us.